Now, you are a young minister with a family. How was that like? I mean, what was it like those early years for you as a young minister, juggling the responsibility of being a minister with raising a family?
It was a big struggle. It was a big struggle. Remember, we started at Beachertown. I had to make a readjustment of my holes. Although I was a country boy, I grew up, but that was a long time ago now in that sphere of things. I'd gone to Kingston. I become a Kingstonian, so to speak. I become a student in Canada and exposed to the Canadian culture,
international
and national travel and so on. And I had to come and make a home in Beachertown. Not even no running water, no nothing like that. It was difficult, but we adjusted to it. And I focused on doing what the Lord wanted me to do. Ministered and started at that time. I did the Clover Hill Church, built them their building and ministers there. The Greyfield Church as well, that started, and started the Claremont Church all the time while I was there. And I didn't have much money, and we didn't have much resources, but my wife Myrna was a tremendous woman.
So she was teaching
at Fern Court.
Did you teach at that time while you ministered? Or
no, I didn't teach. I didn't teach. She did all the teaching. Until
ministering.
Right, and I did the ministering. Then the whole idea now of coming to Ocho Rios, she went back to Canada and finished her degree in science, and I went to Milligan. So we are separated for that time. Although I went back and forth during the break time and so on. So when we all finished, I come to Ocho Rios to start the work here in Ocho Rios, and then she died in that accident in 1973. Paul was 7 and Tanya was 5.
You want to mention, so she was going on a church trip?
She was going on a school trip. She was carrying students to a science exhibition in Montego Bay when the vehicle got into an accident.
The accident happened where?
It happened between Falmouth and Duncan's.
Okay.
Narrow stretch of road, and the man was
Was he overtaking?
Overtaking on a narrow hill. See something coming, lost his sense of control, run into the bank, slam over. And,
so your wife Myrna, was she the only one that died in that accident?
Yeah, she was the only one died. She was the only one seriously hurt. She was in the front of the vehicle, turned over, she was thrown out. Head injury.
That was 1973.
1973. Right. And so I was left now with 2 children, Paul and Tanya. Devastation. It's devastating. And in the midst of securing to build this church, because the groundbreaking for this Ocho Rios church was in 74. She died in 73. We got the land and we had to do the drawing and so on and so on. So I had a big adjustment to make. Big adjustment. Financially, as well as socially.
She was kind of the breadwinner.
She was kind of the breadwinner. But God provides, And we got help from churches in Canada, especially, and so on. And then later on, I began to teach at Prospect, part-time at the Prospect College.
Right. So let me ask you, I'm kind of wanting to drill down on the Churches of Christ in Jamaica, some of the history, some of your own work, but who are your role models in ministry? Like, in the early years for you, who did you look up to? Who did you see as the kind of people you wanted to emulate? And maybe identify 3 people you most admire.
Are you talking within the Jamaican ministry?
Ministers, like wherever, whether it be, you mentioned having one of the greatest preachers at Bible.
My number one, the late Dr. Ernest George Hansel. Dr. Hansel was the principal of Alberta Bible College. He was a member of parliament for Alberta in the Canadian legislature, and a minister at the Vulcan Church of Christ. He was a Bible man, and he was an expository preacher, and he was a cartoonist, so he dramatizes his preaching, and I got very close to him, and he mentored me, and I regard him as the greatest preacher I have ever listened to, ever met him.
So give it 2 more role models.
Hey. 2 more role model. Brother Thomas Lowe.
Brother Lowe.
From Freehill.
Thomas Lowe.
Thomas Lowe. Never seen anybody as enthusiastic for the gospel as Brother Lowe. Traveling, preaching, baptizing people, just giving himself to the ministry. Live it, never expect anything, never complaining, sun hot.
He was a gentle giant.
Gentle giant.
And then your third role model.
My third role model, Canon King.
Canon King.
Canon King. Although I was not exposed to his ministry,
Right.
yet his teaching and the way he appealed to us boys. In other words, he saw the ministry as something that you must aspire to. You're needed in the ministry, but the ministry needs you. You need the ministry needs you, sort of thing. And he would encourage us boys. I tell you, I put that in part of my resume in a plot. So, I am indebted to Canon King. He's one of the persons.
So, let's talk
Well, I tell you, the Lord blessed me with 2 wives. Not at the same time. But Myrna was a gem, a special person. She loved the Lord. She was very talented. She was very able. She loved Jamaica with a passion. And, we were not married for more than, 10 years? I think we were married about 9, going 10 years. So it wasn't a long time, but we did share the Beachertown ministry. She was head and feet, every part of her was involved in the ministries there. She gave up herself in the Beachertown, Clover Hill, Claremont, Greyfield ministry, and in the laying of the work down here. We go back to Canada, she studied, I studied at Milligan and come back to Ocho. It was in our bedroom that Sunday school classes were held and so on Sunday mornings. She adjusted herself to it. I was just getting into that function of giving in fullness when her unfortunate death took place. But God knows all things. It was her vision that we had this educational wing, and we put that, it was here at this church dedicated to that. Pansy, the Lord provided her. She came into my life at a time when I needed somebody like her. 2 children, no money, no a whole heap of things involved in the work of the church here in Ocho and so on. Pansy is a woman of great super talents and strength and commitment. She runs the St. Anne's Bay work. It would not be without her. She runs a home. She became mother to Paul and Tanya in those tender years. She gave them love, and she mothers the church here, and so on. And she's always with me and in supportive role in everything. So God has blessed me with 2 great wives. Thank God for that. Thank God, really for that. And I tell you, if every minister had the wives like I have, I tell you, they would be on fire. Like for the Lord.
All right, again, you know it, understand it. What has been the Churches of Christ's biggest success in your estimation? And what are some of the current challenges that the church is facing?
Well, the Church of Christ in the early years of the late 40s through to the mid 50s was a movement on fire. It was a missionary movement. It was focused, albeit not to the extent of much vision beyond the these people, the missionaries who came, were evangelists, and they climb the mountains and they go into the interior. They leave the cities.
And by those who came, you're talking about people who came from abroad.
People who came from abroad. Yes, and all credit to their thing. But when the hurricane of we're told in some of the researches and some of the missionary writings that when we had the hurricane in 1951, there were about 110 preaching points and Churches of Christ in Jamaica.
Wow.
A number of those were destroyed by the hurricane because they were not substantive buildings. And then the work scattered because a lot of the people who were trained as leaders and appointed at least went off to England, in the trek to England. So it was really a restarting of things after the hurricane. And the missionaries moved to Kingston, and a lot of the work died out. Then the missionaries themselves had dispute among themselves, which destroyed the work, and division that even reign right now took over, so that a movement that had all the possibilities of being strong became rather weak. The strong point that I would say of today was the local leaders that took up the foe to not identify with any of the groups, but to focus in making the church as strong as we can get it. I was one of those. Lloyd Morris was one of those. Brother Albert Thompson is one of those. Winston Malcolm, one of those. Delroy Brown is one of those. And not to minimize the fact of Brother Winston Jackson, though he came on later. But we are all Jamaicans who decided that we were going to make what we can of the Churches of Christ.
What
But we
about
believe the
Walker?
doctrine.
Ralph Walker.
And Ralph Walker. Yes, he came on, he went away, was involved. And by the way, if I can find some tape of Brother Walker, I'll let you have that. He did take this,
Yes,
something
sir.
like this, yeah. But Brother Walker is a great contributor. But we decided that, and so the modern churches, church buildings that we have now, are those that are of any, most of them I should say, not all of them, are what was done by local men. We local Jamaicans who have been exposed to training and using our resources and available resources to build. So you have Ocho, Rios, North, you have Portmore, you have Constant Springs,
Penwood.
you have Penwood, and some of the
The
others.
former Hopefield
And
is
the
called.
former Hopefield.
What are they called now?
It is called the.
And then there's Meadowbrook.
There's Meadowbrook was started by the Hergates, but Vincent Graham
Right,
took that and allowed it to grow. But the other churches that brother that came out of the Hopefield. There. So those are the strong thing. We never get the organizational structure. One of the weaknesses of the Church of
I was
Christ.
going to ask you, what's your disappointment?
My disappointment is that we never had a united, organized way of doing things. I do believe, as our American and Canadian brothers believe, and we were taught in the autonomy of the local church. But I also, experience have taught me that there are certain culture that autonomy don't work into. That people have to be organized, and people almost have to be controlled.
Right. Be systematic about how you do what you do.
Right. So we lack that, and without central organizing body, every man does what he seems right
in his own eyes.
In his own eyes, and the brotherhood as a whole never get to become this force that it should be. That to me has been one of the disappointments. Big disappointments. Yeah.
What's your greatest accomplishment as a minister that you're most proud of?
The school in St. Anne's Bay.
Starting the school in St. Anne's Bay.
To which I give my wife, Pansy, a great credit. Great credit.
What is your greatest disappointment?
My biggest disappointment is that I have not been able to recruit and train and leadership to the caliber that could carry on. So that even at my age at 79, I still have to be holding on to a ministry because I have not had the replacement. It was not a lack of trying, but probably if I had to do it over again, I would do it differently.
So,
but that is one of my disappointments.
What opportunity did you grasp, and then looking back, you look back with pride on seizing that opportunity because you're pleased with the result?
Northview and the school.
Just moving on Northview.
Northview.
So you're getting on in years, and you just mentioned that you were 79. I'll describe it as in the twilight of your years, but you're still active in the ministry. What is the most urgent item on your agenda that you want to pursue that you haven't yet accomplished?
I'd like to see the church in Ocho Rios organize elders and deacons and a forward thrust towards evangelism. I would like to see that in my time. I'd like to see that in place. Not that I have not tried or it was never a part of my vision in earlier years, but I would like to see that happen. So I'm disappointed that it has not happened yet.
Yeah.
Although there are, there are background laid.
Work of foot.
Yeah.
So you have two sons.
Yes.
Neither is in the pastoral ministry. Do you desire them to be? And if yes, what do you think will happen?
I desire them to be. I have always been, and I always sent to Bible college in Canada. And unfortunately, Paul did not live up to expectation within the ministry. He's still in Canada. He still professed to be a Christian. His involvement in church is not as good as I would like it to be, and he's not well. So unless a miracle happens, I don't see him entering the ministry. He does have a son, and my grandson. I have spoken with that grandson, and challenge him, give him the challenges of the possibility of the ministry. Oh, you have to come this way, brother.
You can continue.
Yeah. Randall, I don't write off Randy at all in coming to the ministry. Randy has a very deep Christian faith. and a deep commitment to the church. He is totally involved in church in Florida, in the church. If that was a smaller church, I think Nydell would probably be an elder or some officers, and moving towards fulfillment in that. But I don't. We talked to Randy about that. Randy has, I believe, the commitment that in time that he would take the ministry.
So you're saying if he thinks it is his calling, that he will answer?
Yes, I believe so. I believe that of Nydell. I really believe that. And that's a prayer that my wife, his mother, prayed all the time.
So let me ask you, there are some trends in the churches. Can you identify things you see happening in the church, even in the Church of Christ, that you find it hard to accept? And has this helped or hindered the growth of the church in Jamaica?
The movement to the women in the ministry has been alien to Church of Christ doctrine and teaching, and yet there are trends that more or less that is the in thing. That is a worldwide trend. Church of Christ has not adjusted to that yet, but there are something to be thinking about, to be adjusting to. It is one of the challenges of the ministry at present. It's definitely one of the challenges. Women in the ministry are, whether to what extent, because we do have a men crisis in leadership in Jamaica, per se in Jamaica, but in the churches of Christ especially, there's a dearth of men and men of leadership material, leadership quality. That is a bad disappointment, and as a matter of fact, I think that has hindered our ministry, because I do believe that nothing grows or aspire without leadership. It's leaders that cause things to grow and to aspire and so on. And if we don't have the quality of leadership, then we're not going to.
So do you see that as one of the biggest threat to the prospect of the church in Jamaica?
Yes, yes, I do, unhesitatingly, I do. That the men in the ministry is a hindrance. The lack of men in the ministry, and men prepared to serve.
What is the church doing well? Churches of Christ.
What we're doing well right now is, I would say, we are striving towards unity. We have just designed a plan where we call this working together relationship, where we're shedding our parochialism and embracing a national unity. We're working together. I see that as a trend, and a blessing, and I see a desire in the part of leadership, the current leadership, to recruit leaders and sharing the crisis that come from the lack of trained leadership. Yes, I see that.
So you have more than 50 years in the ministry. Recently, and I don't think it's new, it's just been in the news, in the US, the issue of sex abuse in the Catholic Church, and in some studies in the Baptist Church, it was found that they have a bigger problem, if not bigger. I suspect that Jamaica is not immune from these kinds of issues.
Oh no, it's here, and it's in the news and in the court too.
What do you think that we need to do? And by we, I mean people like you in the church, you in leadership, need to do to protect young people from being preyed on?
Well, there are lots we could do. There is a teaching part of it. There is the whole factor of the leadership quality and the firmness of our conviction. All of that has to go. But leadership of the present time, we have to, as the Bible says, abstain from the very appearance of evil. In other words, we've got to take all the precautionary measures that we possibly can. Okay, and if the minister can counsel within the ambit of others being present or nearby, and don't put himself into any uncompromising situation or temptation.
Or you mean compromising?
Compromising, yes, that's what I mean. Situation. All of that, may help. All of that may help. But the fact still remains that in the churches of Christ, we are congregational governed people, and we don't have an organization that controls and so on. That's unfortunate, I believe, but that's how it is right now. So the congregation has to play a role and has to be the policeman in a quote unquote for the protection of the ministry and the integrity of the gospel.
So I really want to thank you for sitting down for this interview. I have one final question of you. What would you want generations to come to know about Nydell Carlton Mullings, minister, Christian, family community pillar? What would you summarize your story to be?
Brother Jim, I might have inherited that from my mother, but I'm a private person. And if you look around, you hardly see anything with my name on it. I don't want to project myself. If people just say, yeah, there was one Nydell Carlton Mullings who had served this church, that's for me is all right. What I would like to be remembered for is the fact that here was somebody with a passion for the church, who gave himself to the church, and who lived the church and used whatever means and opportunities that were to start churches, to help weaker churches, and to preach the gospel. That's what I would be wanted to be remembered for. No epitaph, no big stone, nothing of that. If people, appreciate what have been done, give God thanks, and let it be.
Thank you.
All right, my brother.
Really want to thank you for agreeing to this and for speaking to things that I'm sure maybe you have spoken about in
many years. Many years. Yeah.
And again, the circumstances, family circumstances, church circumstances, I think God's plan was in place, and all you had to do was follow.
Amen.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.